Opening with a nice, soft, melodic, beautiful guitar solo is a hell of a way to hook me right in. And no, we're not talking about a song. No, we're not talking about an album. We're talking about a movie today. Let's talk about Opus.
After 30 years outside the public eye, pop icon Moretti returns for an exclusive listening experience.
He's bringing you a gift.
Opus is a psychological thriller about a young writer who travels to the remote compound of a legendary pop star who disappeared 30 years ago. Surrounded by his cult following, she finds herself in the middle of his twisted plan. So this is an A24, starring Ayo Edebiri, who you might recognize from the very successful show called The Bear, also a voice actress on Big Mouth and on Inside Out 2. Co-starring John Malkovich, whom is in a ton of things. He's kind of an icon. I personally know him best from Con Air as Cyrus the Virus. Man, I love Con Air. I should review that sometime. Anyway, John Malkovich is kind of a legend, and he's in this, and his character is so unique, so fabulous. He's like this fabulous pop star who's hella sinister, conniving, and sketchy. I love it. So the movie's very much a cult movie, and one thing that I was worried for going into this movie is that it was going to be typical. A girl goes to a compound and crazy cult starts happening. Now, I do think this movie did fall a little bit into the typical cult trope, but I also did think it did some things that were quite unique. So let's talk about some things that I liked. One thing is for sure, the acting here, in my opinion, is really solid. The two characters that I expected the most from were the two leads, I would say, Ayo Edebiri and John Malkovich, and I think they delivered. Ayo's character, Ariel, is first and foremost really relatable. She is an easy to root for protagonist. She is level-headed, she's smart, she's witty, and she always trusts her gut, a characteristic we don't always get in a female lead in a horror film. So, we love that for Ariel. Her decisions make sense. Everything she says and does is pretty consistent with the overall character development that we do get for her. Slap on Ayo's face as the actress, and you have a really natural, really compelling lead of Opus. John Malkovich, on the other hand, is fabulous, both in the character he plays, Alfred Moretti, and also in his acting throughout. So Alfred Moretti is the pop star, the cult leader, and boy oh boy, he plays this character to the T, in my opinion. The way he delivers his lines is spot on. The crazy, over-the-top antics he portrays throughout his speeches and his dancing and whatnot is very gripping. And I went quickly from, who is this diva, to who is this psychopath, like 5 times over throughout the film. I love how he can flip a switch, and his character is consistent as well. Fabulous. And because John Malkovich's character is a pop star debuting his new music at this compound, we obviously get a lot of good beats and music throughout the movie. It's vibey, it's poppy, yet the overall mood of the movie is still very eerie, and we get to experience the good, the bad, the ugly, the weird alongside the lead character Ariel, who I think is a really good reflection of how a normal person would react if they were in this situation. So definitely, at least for me, I was engaged the whole time. And this is a good thing. The whole time in the movie, I would watch Ariel's reaction to things and I would be like, that is exactly how I am reacting right now. And that's exactly how I would react if I was in the situation. We can only hope, we can only hope we'd be as smart as her in that sort of cult situation, So that being said, I said initially at the beginning of this that I do think the movie fell into some typical cult tropes, but I do also think that there were some pretty good curveballs here, which is a positive for the movie. I think that there were some shocking moments. I think that there were some unexpected moments. I think there were some uncomfortable moments, and for a cult-themed movie, I did not think the movie was extremely predictable. Yes, there are predictable parts. Yes, a lot of the things that happen kind of are what you expect from a cult movie, but there were some parts that I was surprised by. Also, the movie was gorier than I thought it would be, and there were some genuinely creepy moments. The movie definitely ended ominously, which I think is a very big positive. It leaves you with a lot of questions, but not really questions that need to be answered or questions that were meant to be answered, but more like open-ended questions and hinting at the fact that there's probably more to the story and what's going to happen next. Now, I doubt we'll get a sequel, but I do kind of like that it ended in a way where it's like, yikes. Moving on to some negatives that I have for the movie. While I do think the movie did incorporate some unique elements, I think that there were some cliches, and I do think the movie followed a relatively generic formula. And as far as movies in this horror subgenre, the cult horror, I don't think this one really stands out as one of the best or anything particularly special. but it was entertaining. There were some parts that confused me slightly. There's some body horror here, actually, inflicted onto some of the characters, and I didn't quite get some of the intentions behind that, honestly. I wish the movie did dive deeper into some of the intentions of the cult and the specific people. And finally, the two leading characters that I talked about were great, but a lot of the other characters were just forgettable, and I didn't buy some of their reactions to things that happened. There's this part where it's pretty damn disturbing to the normal person, and a lot of the characters, when they watch this happen, they're just kind of like staring, like, what the f are you doing? I'm gonna get up and leave. And they're just freaking staring. I guess they're shocked. They don't know what to do. Again, I guess you wouldn't know unless you were in that situation. But I felt like some of the reaction from some of the characters were a little bit unrealistic. And I was like, what are you doing? My point, though, is apart from Ariel and Moretti, these two characters, nobody else really stood out to me. So that's that. But overall, guys, this movie was entertaining. It's pretty similar to what I expected, with a few curveballs thrown along the way, which I liked. I think that Ayo Edebiri and John Malkovich were seriously fun to watch, and there were some fun moments throughout the movie. For me, this is a 3.5 out of 5 stars from Lynn Czar. And really what's hindering this movie for me is that I think that it does fall into a lot of typical cult movie tropes, and I think that there are a few weak points developmentally, but let's see what the general consensus is. Okay, I'm not really getting a typical the typical like bar that I get where it gives me audience ratings and an average, and then it gives me kind of like how many 1 stars, 2 stars, 3 stars, 4 stars, 5 stars there are. Maybe it's because not too many people have seen this movie yet. Maybe it's not really out there, or people aren't really putting out reviews, just audience reviews on Google. But I see a 39% from Rotten Tomatoes. That's not good. Okay, I see a 58% popcorn score for the general audience. Okay, I think that's fair, to be honest. Like I said, it's not all that unique, but honestly, what I do think is that if you guys like this cult subgenre of horror, I think you'll love it. You know, there was some good parts to this. I think that there was some actually good horror elements to this in here as well. I didn't really think we were going to get much of that, but I thought there was a good bit of gore. I thought there was some body horror. That psychological thriller element is definitely prevalent in this. I wouldn't go in expecting a brand new take on a cult horror movie, but I do think there are some surprises to enjoy along the way, and I definitely recommend at least giving it a watch at some point this year. After all, who doesn't want to see Cyrus the Virus in his diva era? Who is this diva? And what have you done with the virus? But what did you guys think? Have you guys seen Opus? Are you guys planning to see Opus? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know. I would love to hear your thoughts. And thank you guys for watching, and catch me next time. Peace.